Today we will be overviewing Schenxico, a country with a long history which has played a critical role in the creation of its modern state. Concerning its geography, Schenxico is located on a peninsula flanked by the Kansas and Wake Forest seas, which gives it many trading advantages. The climate is temperate, and most of the land in Schenxico is flat plains rolling hills, which is excellent for agriculture. There's also the Rufus Mountain Range to the east of the country. One of Schenxico's most important features is its history of ethno-linguistic diversity, or the presence of a variety of different ethnic groups that mostly speak different languages. Early Schenxico was divided into several feudal states, with ethnic groups dominating small, separate areas. Eventually, the charismatic leader, Amy Olsen, would rise to power and unite the various feudal states through intimidation and promises of installing democratic practices and increasing the wealth of the country as a whole. Olsen managed to create a massive empire that spanned the globe, which brought immense wealth to her new kingdom. It was in this way that the area would adopt the values of mercantilism. However, since all of the ethnic groups shared the trait of having ancestral land which they occupied, they were not pleased to be living in a unified kingdom which nullified these cultural boundaries. In addition, Olsen proved to be tyrannical and elitist rather than democratic. Tensions accumulated amongst the different ethnicities and elites, which led to a chaotic civil war, which resulted in Amy Olsen being ousted. After the war, the ethnicities agreed to return to their own ancestral lands and leave each other alone, which brought enough stability for the kingdom's political bodies to reorganize themselves. This is when former elite Melissa Zeman rose up to assume the mantle of Amy Olsen. Conforming to the practices of Olsen's rule, she declared herself as Empress of the land, but instead planned and initiated a drafting of a democratic constitution with the participation of members of all of the existing ethnic groups. The constitution established term limits and began dismantling the global Olsen Empire, returning its various colonies to the indigenous people abroad. Once the democratic principles were finalized and the constitution signed, Zeman voluntarily stepped down to launch Schenxico into peaceful democratic transition, leaving a powerful president of political responsibility and rule of law.
There are three branches of government in Schenxico: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. At the top of the executive branch, there's the Prime Minister, who is both head of state and government. They are elected every 5 years and can serve a maximum of 2 terms. Their powers include commanding the military, proposing and vetoing legislation, appointing justices to the Supreme Court, and creating or signing treaties with other countries. Their cabinet is composed of all department heads. Once per month, the Prime Minister is subject to questioning. This ensures that they are doing their jobs properly and accurately representing the people in government. The Prime Minister is popularly elected, meaning they must receive at least 50% of the votes. If not, a runoff election is held. The current Prime Minister is Jamie Shend. He's a member of the Just Teacher Stuff Party. He's quite popular among the younger generations due to his progressive ideas and impeccable fashion sense. He comes from a wealthy family which owns the profitable Jamie Crew fashion company. The legislative branch is composed of a bicameral legislature. The lower house is called the House of Regulars. It is composed of 200 seats which are voted upon using a proportional representation electoral system. Their powers include creating and passing legislation, declaring war, and passing a vote of no confidence to re-elect the Prime Minister. The dominant parties in the lower house are the Just Teacher Stuff Party, Push Rich Off Until Tomorrow Party, and All Tomorrows Party. The upper house is called the House of Royals. It is composed of 96 seats, meaning 3 elected members per state. These seats are voted upon using a single-member district electoral system. The main powers of the upper house is to approve legislation with a 2/3 majority. Additionally, they appoint justices to the Supreme Court. Schenxico's constitution created an independent Supreme Court with the power to exercise judicial review and serve as a court of appeals. There are 9 Supreme Court justices. 5 are appointed by the upper house and 4 by the Prime Minister. Each of the 32 states also have their own appeals court. Cases can be appealed up to the Supreme Court, the highest court in Schenxico. There's been a long history of rule of law in the country, and is the main reason why it still persists today. Bureaucracy in Schenxico is composed of all major departments of government. The most powerful and influential one is the Department of Culture, which keeps the peace between the multiple ethnic groups in Schenxico. Within the bureaucracy, there's an emphasis on meritocracy. In order to enter or move up in the bureaucracy, one must pass a civil observance exam, which will become more difficult as you move up. This ensures that the best and most qualified are at the top of their department.
In Schenxico, there are many ethnically based political parties due to the high ethno-linguistic diversity. These smaller parties call for devolution of power and greater representation of the individual states. However, there are three main umbrella parties in Schenxico. These three parties are the JTS, the Push Rich Off Until Tomorrow Party, and the All Tomorrows Party. The JTS is a centrist party, and this party has a majority in the House of Regulars, and Jamie Shent is the leader of this party. The Push Rich Off Until Tomorrow Party is a left-wing party, and this is very popular with young people and urban people. And then the All Tomorrows Party is more right-wing, and this party is very popular with elderly people and businesses.
Elections in Schenxico are held every 5 years for both the executive and legislative branches. This ensures that there is no split in the government. The Prime Minister is popularly elected, and a runoff election is held if no candidate receives 50% of the vote initially. The lower house has a proportional representation electoral system, while the upper house has a single-member district electoral system. Schenxico has a ballot initiative, meaning if people are not happy with how the government is run, they can pass an initiative with 3/4 of a majority to dissolve the current government and reschedule elections. Members of government stay in government until the election results are released.
In Schenxico, the military is a very weak system. A very small proportion of the wealth in Schenxico is used to support the military. And this is because there's a general consensus that a strong military could result in turmoil similar to that of Schenxico's past. So the extra funds from the low military spending is used domestically, especially to support the police force. And the military has very strict ethnic quotas to ensure that no one cultural group has complete control over the military, and this prevents a coup of one ethnic group trying to control everybody else. There are four main branches of the military in Schenxico: the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Coast Guard.
Because our country is so diverse, ethnic leaders from all across the country were invited for the writing of the Constitution. Since the country's transition to democratic rule, citizens have accepted the state as sovereign and peace is maintained without major intervention. The popularity of the first leader, Melissa Zeman, helped to legitimize the state during its creation, and leaders have been elected democratically since, with Transparency International declaring elections to be free and fair. Politicians are no exception to following law, and while the extent of enforcement varies for different laws, all citizens are subject to the same rules. The function of such a diverse population in Schenxico in government is complicated. To prevent the different ethnic groups from gaining control over one another, political participation is ingrained in Schenxico culture. Political socialization through public schooling and government propaganda strongly focus on citizens expressing themselves in government. Because of referenda and ballot initiatives, citizens are often confronted with methods of making their voices heard, and political literacy is the norm across different cleavages because all groups are given real access to power.
Schenxico has a mercantilist mindset when it comes to the political economy. This means that most of the power in Schenxico comes from wealth. So Schenxico's main industry is fine textiles, and it is one of the world's leaders in this industry. And the majority of wealth in Schenxico comes from exporting textiles, and this is the main reason why the country is known as the fashion capital of the world. There's a lot of arable land all across the country that is used to farm cotton that is then transported to the factories in the major cities to create these fine textiles. Then after the textiles are created, the products are moved to the ports along the coast to be exported to different countries. In the Rufus mountain range, there are many minerals. The most abundant of these minerals are granite and slate. The minerals from the mines are then transported to a port city to be exported.
Schenxico has a mostly free civil society. The civil society is very active due to the lots of different regions and ethnic diversity. While there is some political tension due to the ethnic and regional diversity, there are organizations in the civil society that help keep the peace between the groups. There is a large art presence in Schenxico due to the participation of the textile industry. There are lots of museums and expos related to the art and culture throughout the country to highlight the different regions' similarities and differences. The media in Schenxico is very free and active. The government does not intervene with the media. The current Prime Minister, Jamie Shent, is very active on social media, especially Twitter.